Finally, my setup is complete. A line which almost every sim racer has used upon buying a product or before posting an image of their setup. But is the setup really ever complete? So if you remember, not so long ago, Thrustmaster and Logitech were the saviors of sim racing community. And to this day, they are still being sold. But DDs were rare and albeit pricey. But that is not the case right now. With Moza having a 5 Nm DD bundle priced at $500, Fanatec felt the heat and decided to drop the pricing on their CSL DD bundle. Camus too gave a shot at the 5 Nm segment, and while I cannot speak for its performance, visually it looks different, but a contender nonetheless. All three of these options are priced very competitively, and should you choose to buy either one of them, you must carefully examine the upgrade route you might want to take in the near future. But that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. What I wanted to talk about is the price to performance ratio that each segment offers. Let's call these segments beginner, intermediate and advanced, okay? Now each of these segments cater to different people depending on their budget and their love for sim racing. Now I'm not saying that a person playing on Logitech G29 does not love sim racing as much as a person playing on Simucube 2 Pro. It all comes down to how much you really want to spend. Because there are people who play sim titles on a keyboard or a controller and are still miles ahead on the leaderboard. So while a racing wheel isn't a requirement, it just takes a different route to enter our lives, which I would like to call as an itch. We all saw someone playing on a wheel on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, right? Thinking how awesome it would be if we could play on a wheel too. I felt the same after watching Expert Gaming Tech. He is the reason why I got into sim racing in the first place and why I am neck deep in sim racing's rabbit hole. But now we have so many different options to choose from. So many manufacturers such as Acertech and Simucube and Simagic who are really pushing the boundaries. You might remember the Simucube active pedals with vibrations and tactile feedback on your feet. Mind-boggling stuff, really. But with a price tag of $2,400 per pedal, will it make you faster than Dom Toretto? Perhaps. Let's take another example. After Simucube's active pedals, Simagic decided to come out with their own set of haptic motors on P1000s. While the technology is different, it is still haptic feedback on your feet at a much lower price range. Now would I be able to break my own record on active pedals compared to P1000s? Maybe not. But again, skill is something which is subjective, and so is the ability to utilize a product to its maximum potential. So my question to you is, at what point does expensive gear start to hit diminishing returns? Let's find out. So I have chosen to conduct this experiment on wheelbases. But why not pedals, right? Well, if you want me to make a video on the pedals as well, let me know in the comments. I'll make one. Now the contenders are Thrustmaster TX, Moza R5 and Simagic Alpha U. I included R5 instead of R9 because it is a good step up for someone looking for an upgrade, which won't break their bank. And talking about things that won't break your banks, it is the Segway, Virtual Racing Hub, your one-stop shop for all the sim racing needs in India. If you are in need of a certain sim racing product or their own lineup of sturdy aluminium rigs, which I'm very excited for, definitely check them out as they offer international warranty on brands such as Simagic, Moza, VNM and Simforge. Don't forget to use code DARTSNAPE for 10% off on most products so you can get yourself a cake afterwards. All the links are in the description box down below. So as I was saying, I included Moza R5 because it is a good step up from a gear-driven or a belt-driven setup. Now you might say that it won't be that big of a difference as the TX has a peak torque of about 4 Nm. And yes, you're right, but the delivery of the torque is what matters, which is different here. Before I begin, if you're unfamiliar with the inner workings of a gear-driven wheelbase, allow me to quickly gloss over it so you can understand where your money is being spent. Thrustmaster TX uses a belt mechanism to deliver the force feedback. There is a gear and a belt which is connected from the motor, which then drives the shaft and you feel the force feedback on the steering wheel. On a direct drive wheelbase, the power is directed from the motor through the shaft to the wheel. There is no belt or gear mechanism. So now when you know the mechanism of both the wheelbases, let's move on. I did a best of 3 lap in the AMG GT3 around Imola. And to be fair to all the wheelbases, I gave each wheelbase 3 laps. Hey guys, future Darth Snape chiming in for just a moment. Before you all watch this, please keep this in mind that I have spent a long time with Thrustmaster TX and about a year with DDs. So if you see me being faster with my TX, I've had a year to build my skills on a direct drive, which is why muscle memory kicks in. Do not let the results give you the wrong impression. Skills are subjective, muscle memory helps, and both can be sharpened over time. Now I'll let you get back. To start us off, I chose the TX, and while it seems like the weakest contender here, it did manage to give me a decent enough feedback. I used it at about 3.5 Newton meters, so it won't clip everything. The details were faint, but it did the job. Next up, it was the R5's turn, and despite it being an entry-level wheelbase, it did help me understand the car's movement a bit more clearly. Some frequencies produced by the base felt a bit digital, but again, the force feedback was way better than TX. And finally, it was time for the big guns. SimMagic Alpha U. I used it at about 14 Newton meters, and I was able to feel every single detail that the game had to offer. I could feel the limits of the tires, the weight shift, the rear end sliding, the understeer, the oversteer. Every little thing was clear as day. All of this helped me to keep my car at the limits comfortably. But at what cost? Let's do a little math. I spent $300 to be this fast. Then in order to get here, it cost me $500. But to get here, I had to spend about $2,600. So what does it mean? And should you buy expensive gear to get faster? Not necessarily. You see, as shown in this video from the car doc, high-end gear will not necessarily make you faster. Practice will. Your skills are the only deciding factor of what product is going to benefit you. I for one almost sold my brand new Thrustmaster TX after realizing that driving on wheel is incredibly hard. But I decided to give it a fair shot. And here we are. Now like I said, skills are subjective. Some people wreak havoc with their entry-level gear and some are potato even with their high-end gear. So why does a person buy expensive gear? Some buy for immersion, some buy because they can, and some buy to get faster. But there is a point after which the gains start to become minimal. For instance, I have the option to purchase a Leopardna base. Now just because I have the option to buy it does not mean that after using it I'll automatically be as good as Max Verstappen. I would still have to work really hard even to be in a 100-mile radius of his skills. Another example would be the slew rate of a base. And basically it is the time taken for your direct drive motor to reach its maximum torque output. Simucube 2 Sport has a slew rate of 3.5 milliseconds. And while the slew rate matters, 3.5 milliseconds is something which is almost impossible to react to. Because you see, while these products are designed in a manner to provide you with the ultimate edge, it still depends on your ability to utilize it. But in the end, the real question is, at what point does the gain start to become razor thin or non-existent? Do you think about these questions before making a purchase? Let me know in the comments. I have been Darth Snape and may the downforce be with you.